And we are live.
We are
Th-
in live, yes, sir.
This is SuperCaZt. This is Steve Z here,
And
along
I am
with,
the Superfosh.
yeah, this is our second joint live session.
Yeah,
And this one is going to be just hanging out,
yeah.
just doing stuff, hanging it, and hopefully it goes pretty well.
On Labor Day Eve, most of us will be just kicking back, relaxing tomorrow. So we thought we'd go ahead and get that started tonight and say hey to everybody.
Yep, hope everybody's doing well, just
Yeah,
chilling. Um, I'm doing pretty well. How about you, man?
man, I'm doing so good, dude. I am doing really good. Just been hanging out, playing some Madden, and just hanging out, man. Really excited about tonight's show, and really glad that everybody joins us. Hope we have a big crowd. Just really excited about what we're doing here today, guys.
Yeah, hopefully we get some people joining in. It's kind of early in the stream. I saw
It is.
someone. I saw one person in earlier, but I guess they have something else to do. But that's cool. But yeah. So if you're been paying attention, we've been doing a lot of different stuff. Been
Right.
really expanding the YouTube. I mean, I just probably did my most complicated intro ever on YouTube.
Very well, I might add.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. It's something I dreamt up, and there was actually some more shots I wanted to put in there,
Yeah.
but just because my computer like crapped out on me last week,
Yeah.
I ended up limiting a little bit because I was like, I just got to get this out there.
Yeah.
So it was one of those deals where it was better in my mind, but maybe in the future I'll have some cooler stuff going.
Man, I thought it was good. I thought it was entertaining, and I thought it was really good, man. I thought you did a really good job on it, man.
I appreciate
So,
it.
thumbs up for me.
All right, I'm trying to pull up our calendar so I know what's going on in the coming
All right.
weeks. And I know this guy named Steve Z shared something with me. In a second, I'll be right back
Uh
on that
oh.
screen. I'm trying to share a screen. This is you guys got to
Yeah.
kind of bear with us. We're
Yeah.
figuring some
We're
things
still learning,
out.
guys.
Yeah, live stream. It's a different sort of animal compared to what we're used to.
Yeah.
We're usually just record stuff, do our podcast thing, and I'll
Right.
come in clean it up with our audio later on. But so while I'm pulling this up, do you have anything you want to tell the people?
I just want to thank everybody for joining us and who might be listening to this at a later time because I know we've had some people watch our first show later on. So we do appreciate that. Like Steve said, this is our second joint, I almost said performance, man. Wow. Our second joint live show. Steve Z kind of kicked us off about a month ago, I guess now. Right, buddy?
Yeah, it
And
was about a month ago. I shared my Criterion just haul, so it was pretty
yeah,
fun.
so we're still kind of in the learning phase here and really enjoying you know doing this, and we hope to do this a lot more often for you guys. But if you're new to the program, we do, as Steve said, we started out doing mainly movie stuff, but we're kind of branching into other territories now, specifically video games. We've done a couple of video games episodes, and I have a couple more planned here in the very very near future. So stick around for that. But we're just kind of broadening our horizons here. Steve and I have been friends for pretty much our entire lives, so we know each other pretty much as brothers, and we have a lot of the same interests. Do we do venture out a little bit differently on certain things? But so if you're new to the program, that's kind of who we are. Our opinion is as valuable as anybody else's, so we're all family here. So if you have a different opinion uh, than us, then hey, that's cool. Um, we mentioned the Man of Steel episode, which is our latest episode that just aired here recently. And in that episode, we actually differed of opinion. I actually love Man of Steel. Steve's not that fond of it, so
Yeah, and I was actually nicer on the episode when recording than I would have been like a few hours prior if we were just recorded as soon as I watched it. So I pulled some punches.
He did.
didn't I didn't pull all of them, but I
Yeah.
could have been a lot
I
more
like
good.
didn't go home and cry or something after it. It was just, it was I was a man about it. It was cool. Hey, we're good.
Yeah, it was
So
fun.
yeah,
So check that out if you guys haven't already.
definitely.
And I'm gonna try to share a screen. We'll see if it works
Let's go.
because this is the first time we've done this,
Yeah.
and I don't actually. Yeah, here we go. Can you see my screen?
Okay, let me see. Are you on YouTube, pal? On our
Yeah,
YouTube channel?
I'm not.
Okay. And let's see here. I don't see it personally, pal.
Okay, maybe not. Maybe this was just too ambitious for this stream.
That's all right. That's all right.
All
Hey,
right.
no
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah, that's cool. We'll figure it out later.
Yep.
I will go ahead and share this one thing as far as what we got going
Right.
in the future,
Definitely.
and that is our calendar.
Yep.
Okay, so I am sharing now. That's cool.
Oh, okay. Okay. I see.
Apparently, I am sharing, so that's fun. So let me see if I can do this view for us. All right, so if you look on our screen right here, you'll realize that we are recording Vacation tonight. It was supposed to be an episode of Game Time as well. That's
Yeah.
been rescheduled to later. But just so you'll know,
Mm-hmm.
the weekend after that, we're going to be watching these films. I actually watched one of them last night, Batman Forever,
Oh man.
and I definitely have some interesting thoughts about that movie. It was a lot of fun actually. I
I'm
enjoyed.
looking forward to that conversation for sure because that's a film that's still near and dear to my heart. I don't know about you, but definitely is for me, man.
Yeah, see, I don't know. I've last time I watched it, it was a I'm gonna say it was a weird experience. Like I kind of liked it, but
Yeah.
it also kind of left a weird taste in my mouth. But this time
Yeah.
watching it, I really liked it. So
Right. Okay.
I want to talk about it.
All right.
Um, so we're recording that one in Rudy next week.
Ah, the classic
Yeah, so I
college
guess
football movie.
it's football season. Got to talk
Yes,
about
sir.
Rudy, and then finishing up the month, if you will, we have
Uh-huh.
Lion King.
Ah, probably
Wh-
the best animated Disney film, at least for my money.
Yeah, and we'll also have an extras that night. So that'll be fun. The best thing I remember about Lion King is just the music. Really,
Yeah.
I thought the music was awesome.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
and this is a movie I have not watched in. I can't even tell you the last time I
Probably
watched
20
Lion
years or
King.
so or longer.
At least, so that'll be fun to kind of go
Yeah.
back and watch that movie for the first time in forever.
Yeah. I okay. So I watched the. I don't know if you've watched the live version, the live action version of this movie. Uh, we watched it. I guess back when we first got Disney Plus, and I was not impressed with it, man. I'm just gonna go ahead and say that
Really?
the animated version so rules this live action, and I
Oh
was really,
yeah, yeah. I've heard the
really
live
disappointed.
action kind of sucks.
Oh, it's terrible. It's awful. Like it's just it doesn't have the magic that the original had, and I was
Mm.
very disappointed. So, gonna go ahead and tell you, I'm a huge fan of the animated version. So, really excited. As you mentioned, the soundtrack probably the best part because Elton John was
Hmm.
in charge of that. So, just a really cool, really good movie. Just a really classic movie, and like I said, probably one of the best animated films Disney's ever put out. So it's if you haven't seen it in a while, like my friend Steve here has, go check it out and join us for that episode because I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about on that
Yeah,
episode coming up.
and I guess while we're on the subject, I'm just not a big fan of those remakes, those live action remakes.
Yeah,
I mean, I understand why Disney's doing it. It's like easy money. Like we don't
sure,
have to make a new script. We don't have to do
sure.
anything new because they've made a lot on those. But I'm hoping that the crowds have tired of them because I think
I hope they do run out of steam because I'm like you, man. I've not really been happy with any of them. I mean, I think the best one, and I'm trying to think of which one it was because there was one really good one
was it
that
the
we
Beauty
watched.
and the Beast?
It was okay.
Yeah, it was
It was
okay. That I was like, it was way too long.
it was better than Lion King, which really surprised me. It was better than Lion King. I'll put it that way. But I don't know. But I'm with you, man. I think the animated versions are much better, and I really do hope we kind of move on from those live action versions, Disney. But
Yeah. I mean, just some things look better animated than they do in live
exactly.
action. So,
Yeah.
all right.
Speaking of which, though, one more thing since we mentioned Disney, we actually watched the Hunchback of Notre Dame, and I think that's a very underrated animated film Disney made.
Mm,
It kind of flew under the radar for us, I think, because we're kind of growing out of the animated versions, when we were kids, So I didn't
hmm
actually see it, but we actually sat down and watched it the other day, and I was surprised how dark that film was. Like, there's a lot of mentions about hell and the devil and stuff like that, and I'm
Really?
like, this is not your traditional kids movie that Disney makes. I mean, it's really really dark. So maybe something we can visit down the road. I hear that they're going to remake that into live action, so that has maybe some promise. But as far as the animated goes, I mean, the villain's probably one of the scariest villains, and the Hunchback is a really sympathetic character. I didn't realize how sympathetic that character is. So props to Disney for that film. And I'm sorry it took me so long to see it, but yeah, we watched it the other day, and I was
Yeah.
pretty impressed with it.
Yeah. I haven't seen it probably, but like once ever.
Yeah.
And I watched the silent film pretty recently. I liked
Hmm.
it a lot. So, might check that out.
Oh yeah.
All right. I see we got 3 people watching. I'm glad you guys could join us.
Welcome.
That's fun. We're just getting into the main event, talking about what we've been watching lately.
Yeah.
So Superfo's just told us he's watched Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Yeah.
I've also watched a movie recently. Didn't get it, finish it though. It was really sad.
Uh huh.
I got this recently on 4K. This is
Oh yeah.
Dracula,
Yeah.
the Francis Ford Coppola, Bram Stoker's Dracula,
Right.
and it's in 4K and it's beautiful.
Mm.
Oh my gosh, it's almost like life changing experience watching this in
That's Gary
4K.
Oldman, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a great film.
it's awesome. But my 4K player crapped out on me watching it. So
Oh no.
yeah, I've been dealing with a lot of tech issues this week. Like
Whew.
first my 4K goes out, and then my computer went out.
Oh
So
man.
I'm having to send the whole thing back. They're gonna give me a new one, not the disc, but the
Yeah.
the 4K player. So I can't wait to watch this one again. This might be one we pull out in October, talking
Yeah.
about
Definitely.
Halloween stuff. But I really like this movie. I know some people don't like it so much because of Keanu Reeves and his performance,
Mm.
and I'm not going to say it's the best, but I will say the others, especially Gary Oldman, as you mentioned, and
Mm.
Anthony Hopkins and
Yes.
Winona Ryder. I think they
Yeah.
kind of make up for Keanu Reeves.
I didn't hate Keanu Reeves' performance when I watched it. I watched it maybe a couple of years ago when I first got HBO because it was on there. I think during Halloween actually,
Yeah.
and I really liked Gary Oldman's performance. I mean, there's not a bad Gary Oldman performance out there, I don't think, but I think uh, he's really scary in that movie. Like he really embodies the character very well. I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I mean, I like how he's like tortured, he's
Yeah.
just,
Exactly.
I like this one actually gives sort of a backstory for him, and I like
Right.
that a lot.
Hmm.
Um, so what's another film that you've been checking out lately?
Well, not so much film, but I've actually gotten back into the show that is Game of Thrones.
Mm,
I just started watching it. I was like, it's been a couple years since the finale. Might want to go back to the season one. And season one is such a good season. I think it's the best season of the show, or at least one of the best seasons of the show. I mean, it's straight up like Shakespearean, really. Aside from like the dragons and stuff, which there's not much dragons in the first season, but
no, they're babies at the end of the first season.
but there's a lot of dialogue and a lot of good conversation and just a lot of good characters. I mean, just I don't know how they keep up with all these good character arcs because a lot of characters change over the course of the show. Some better than others, of course, but I'm really loving. I didn't remember much about Robert Baratheon. I know he dies, but
Mm,
I didn't remember much about his character. So I've been really paying attention to his scenes rewatching it, and he's a really interesting character on his own right. You know, you don't really know if he's a good guy or if he's kind of in between. But I guess you could say that about a lot of characters in
Yeah,
the
they're
game.
all a bunch of great characters.
Do what?
All a bunch of great characters. I mean,
Right. Yeah.
except for maybe like Jon Snow, or there's a few really good guys, but
Yeah.
not many.
But yeah, I've been really enjoying getting back into that world. You know, I was like everybody else. I watched the show originally and stuff, but it just when I watched it originally, I just didn't catch it as much as everybody else did, and I guess I was in a weird headspace at the time anyway.
Mm.
So rewatching it now in a better headspace, it's a really good show. I see why everybody was so nuts about it because it's a really well made show. In fact, I think it supersedes the word show. I think it's definitely like just a drawn out movie that they've just cut out in episodes, you know, because it's just so well shot and the
Ye-
music is obviously iconic. I mean, just a tremendous show.
Yeah, it's one of the few like long term like storytelling things that I've really enjoyed.
Hmm.
Because I mean, I got into those Netflix shows like the Marvel Netflix,
Right?
but all those I was like, man, you guys could speed up this story a little bit.
Yeah,
But Game of so glad when they were milking it and just like
yeah.
stretching it out, making it so good, getting to know those characters, getting to know the
Mhm.
world. And that's what kind of depressed me. But the later seasons is
Mhm.
how they just kind of like, okay, let's finish it up. Here we go.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a difference in the later seasons. I saw some YouTube video the other day. They were talking about the later seasons, how they kind of just uh, changed the entire tone of the show. And it's
Hmm.
obvious because, like I said, this show starts out kind of on a grounded level. You know, you're like,
It
yeah, this is
does.
believable. And while I don't mind all the other stuff, it just, I think it takes away from what makes this show really well, made that show really well, and that's the characters and the dialogue and just uh, never knowing what's going to happen next. You know, you never know who's going to live, who's going to die. I mean, it's just a
Hmm.
crazy show, crazy, uh, you know, ride that you get on when you watch Game of Thrones.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was so emotional experience. Like
Yeah,
I want to do the same thing. Go back and watch it again sometime.
you should.
It was one of those deals where I don't know. I just love the ride and
Mm,
just it evokes so many emotions for me. Like
yeah,
it's one of the few shows I've ever at the end of an episode I've screamed at the TV
yes,
and just was so angry, but also just shocked. And
yeah.
I just sat there for minutes after the episode was over, and I was just like, "What just happened?"
Two
Um,
words: Red Wedding. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah. Let's no spoilers in this cast, but um, it's definitely one of those times in my life where I
yeah,
was just like, I remember what I was doing, I
yeah,
remember what I was thinking when I watched that episode.
yeah,
But I'm with you. The first season or so, it definitely pulls you in. The first time I watched it, I actually watched the whole first season
yeah.
in one sitting. Like
Oh yeah, I could
me
do
and
that. Yeah.
me and my friend Quadrille, we just sat down. It was on my birthday. We watched the whole thing. Just like
Oh man,
half of the second season too. We were just like 14, 15 hours straight of Game of
I bet
Thrones.
you were just spit after that because I would have been man.
I was. It was just I was so tired, but I
Woo.
was so awake at the same time. Like
Right.
I just was into it. But that reminds me. So the show I started watching
Uh huh.
is the House of Dragons,
Yeah. Okay.
and
I watched an episode of that. Yeah.
I watched most of the first episode,
Uh
and
huh.
I'm just gonna say, and this I don't know if this is controversial or maybe I just need to give it more of a shot.
Yeah.
To me, it is not yet must see TV.
Yeah.
Like, um, Game of Thrones toward the end, it was engagement TV. Like you
Mm.
had to watch it, otherwise somebody at work or somebody at school,
Would
in
tell
my
you. Yeah.
case, would ruin it for you. But for me, House of Dragons has not reached that. It's early stage, so I might actually wait till the end of the season and just binge it.
Well, that's the thing. Like when you make a show that follows such an iconic show like Game of Thrones, what's your bet? You know, what's your point? Because are you trying to remake Game of Thrones? Because I don't think they can. I don't think you remake something like that without just remaking the entire first show. So I think this is going to be one of those shows where it's going to be kind of like some of these Star Wars shows we've seen, where yeah, it's Star Wars, but it's not Star Wars. You know what I mean? Like the Mandalorian was good and everything, but it's not. Would you watch Mandalorian over Empire Strikes Back? Probably not. So I feel like that's what this show is going to be. There's going to be good parts and there's going to be a lot of intrigue, but I think they're not going to have, because it's solely based on really one family. It's not going to have all the all the characters. So it may not just be live up to the hype that Game of Thrones unfairly put on it.
Yeah, and if it does, I'll be pleasantly
Sure,
surprised.
right?
And I'll go ahead and agree with Esther Foshi. She agrees with me that yeah, the
Yeah,
pacing was so much better in those early seasons.
yeah.
I season 3 especially because I just remember the Hound and Arya going on their journey together.
I
I was just like,
love their yes. That's one of my favorite companions in Game of Thrones is Arya and the Hound.
I
I
was
could
just
watch.
like, just make a spin-off show of just them
Yeah,
hanging out.
I would watch that every time. I love that.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So a lot of good stuff happened in Westeros. You're
yeah,
watching the old show. I'm watching the new show.
yeah.
Anything else on your radar? Things you've been watching?
Oh man, not really. Just trying to uh, get into some games. Like I said, I've been playing some Madden. Madden just came out, and Madden 2026. It's crazy because first Madden I ever played was Madden 96, and now it's like 30 years later. It's kind of crazy. But pretty crazy that it's. I've been playing that game for what, like I said, 30 years. It seems like.
Yeah, close to it. It's kind of crazy.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm the same thing. I'm waiting for 2K to come out next week. That's
Hmm.
NBA 2K, and I got a super deal on this one.
Oh yeah.
I taught Minion to let me buy the championship edition,
There you go.
and with that you get the game,
Yeah.
but you also get a year's worth of subscription to League Pass, so I get to watch all the
Nice.
NBA games. So
That's really
that's
cool,
like
dude.
a $200 value. So that's pretty
Dang.
sweet.
Very cool.
Yeah, but once again, commenters Esther saying that Brienne versus the Hound best solo sword fights.
Yeah.
Probably in the show, yeah, because I was thinking it was gonna be the Hound versus the Mountain, but that would end up
Yeah.
being sort of anticlimactic. But that's like
Yeah.
everything in season 8 was kind of anticlimactic.
Pretty much. Yeah.
But yeah, I want to talk about this movie. It's
Sure,
something I
man.
watched pretty recently,
Yeah.
and it's the first time I watched it. Is this John Carpenter's Prince of Darkness?
I've never seen that. Is it good?
It is good. It's
Okay.
and it's one of those deals where the first time I watched it,
Yeah.
I thought it was good, but at the same time, it wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be in my mind.
Uh,
But I've been getting into like H.P. Lovecraft and like
yeah.
his horror fiction.
Right.
And after reading a few of those stories, I wanted to go back and watch this movie again. And I watched it again, and it was just so much better.
Oh yeah.
I think it's definitely about atmosphere. It's about just dread,
Right.
and I really liked it. So I highly
Cool.
recommend this movie. Once
Cool.
again, another one we might watch in October as far
Yeah.
as like scary movies.
Yeah.
John Carpenter's one of my favorite directors. We reviewed one of his films back in June, and I
So,
you liked it a lot. I know.
one of the a film I am actually looking forward to watching. I don't know about you. I found out it is on Peacock, and that's the latest Jurassic Park film, where they bring back
Mm.
Dr. Grant and Dr. Sadler. I know you haven't seen it, Steve, and I know you're probably not going to see it. Am I right in saying that?
No, I've heard it's just a piece of trash, and I don't
Okay.
want to waste my time watching that.
Well, since I don't have to spend any extra money, I'm going to try it out and see if it's, you know, good at all. If it's crap, I'll turn it off in the middle of it. But
Yeah,
Grant, Dr. Sadler, and Malcolm, they don't
yeah.
stay in the movie, huh?
No, it doesn't like really sell me on it because everything I've heard about it
Yeah,
is it just makes no sense. It's
yeah,
a bunch of different storylines that don't really connect and too much. And I don't know.
yeah,
I might give it a shot one day. I'm just like every Jurassic Park movie since the original is just kind of like it hasn't hit the same beats,
yeah.
and I'm just like you guys are beating at this point,
I,
especially.
I I admit that. I mean, I feel like that they're kind of beating a dead horse. I mean, How much can
especially
you get out of dinosaurs?
yeah. Now they're not even using like real dinosaurs. They're like doing like these genetically modified dinosaurs.
Yeah,
So I'm like,
they're
it's
not even
just
real. It's like,
yeah,
yeah,
it's just silly. So
yeah,
I don't really want to watch it. I know a lot of people are excited about it. I know it made a lot of money in the theater, even though everybody was blasting it saying it's a piece of crap. So that is what it is. So
yeah,
I might check it out later down the road, but probably not.
yeah. Well,
Anything else?
dude, man, just not really.
Man, I've got so many movies to talk about.
Man, go ahead. I'm listening. I like it, man.
All right. So after we get done
Yeah.
recording, usually I will play video games for like 30, 40 minutes, and I'm like, I just need to chill.
Yep.
So I'll put on just a silly, stupid movie.
Yeah.
And occasionally I succeed in picking a good one, and sometimes I pick a bad one.
Okay.
Because when I was in like seventh and eighth grade, I used to just rent movies.
Right.
And I didn't if they're good or bad, I just watch them. And
Hmm.
sometimes they hold up, sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
And one of these that I was very disappointed did not hold up is Puppet Master. Because I watched the whole series back then, and I knew it was kind of cheesy. I knew it was kind of
Yeah.
schlocky. But watching it the other night, actually, this was about, I guess, 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I just turned it off at the end. Actually, no, I didn't turn it off. I skipped ahead of the movie because it was so boring.
Really?
Because I don't know. I used to love the series. And
Yeah.
I still think the character designs for the puppets are really cool,
Right.
especially Blade. He's just really neat looking. He's like a weird Michael Myers with
Yeah.
a cool trench coat and a cool hat, and
Hmm.
he's got a hook for a hand and a knife for the other. I mean, that's just awesome.
Yeah.
And I think that's like really parts of it are cool, but it was just so boring. I had to like fast forward 30 or 40 minutes. I'm like, how
So
much
it's,
is
it's not scary at all now, huh?
no, it's not scary. It wasn't scary then, but at least it
Yeah.
was cool watching it.
Yeah.
I thought it had some cool kills, but looking back on it now, I'm just like, this is very just tame.
Yeah.
Definitely has that sort of straight to video sort of
Yeah.
feel to it.
Is there any
So
good performances at all, or is it just all crappy performances?
oh, I mean, they're all hamming it up.
Yeah.
It's just cheesiness,
Yeah.
and I guess the puppet effects are cool. I'll give it
Oh, man.
that. So I was disappointed with that, but I also watched House recently,
Oh yeah.
and House, and this is not the Japanese House because that's a different one movie. I
Right.
like that one, but this is the 1986, I think, or 1985 movie called House, and it's got
Hmm.
I can't remember the name of the actor, but I just remember that Norm from Cheers is one of the major characters in it too.
Oh yeah. 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 I know. Yeah.
And this movie, first off, I was amazed at how cool it looks because that's the first time I ever watched it at high def,
Yeah.
and I was just like, man, just they did a lot with the set and the lighting and everything, a
Right.
lot better than like a cheesy '80s horror film should,
Right.
and really cool sort of creature effects and a pretty fun story. It's a nice haunted house film. So if you haven't ever seen House, I would recommend it. It's pretty fun.
That's another show, another movie we'll do in October.
Maybe. I don't know. It might make the list. I got too many on the list for October.
Yeah.
So it might make it. It might just be postponed.
Does anybody have any like just crazy movies that they watch, whether it's scary or not, that like Steve? Because I think we all have those movies where they're maybe not good, but at least you find enjoyment. Is there any movie other than that that you just really like that maybe not good, but you still find a lot of enjoyment in?
Yeah, put it in the comments. That'd be something cool to talk about.
Because we'd love to know. Because we're all about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And I guess the third one I'm going to add to that category
Yeah.
I just watched was Trancers.
Oh yeah. I've
And
heard of that.
if you've never seen it,
Yeah, I've
the
never seen it.
first it's the first 30 minutes is kind of like a cheap Blade Runner.
Yeah.
It's like set in the future,
Mm-hmm.
and it's got flying cars and all that stuff, but it's on a
Mm-hmm.
very, very low budget. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like this 80s film that it's very neonish looking, and then all of a sudden it jumps to like 1980 Los Angeles.
Yeah.
because it's like a time travel film, and I liked it a lot. I thought it was a fun movie. I'm
Yeah.
glad it's getting a 4K release, even though I'll probably just be happy getting on Blu-ray just because I don't think I want to shell out the extra money for that one. But I really liked it.
Is it from the 80s?
It is definitely
Okay.
it's one of those full moon films.
Yeah.
Um, Clue is what somebody's saying here. What do you think about Clue?
I like Clue. I like Clue. My wife's a huge fan of Clue, so that was probably her too. But
That
yeah,
was her. Yeah.
what I like Clue. Now, there's a movie that I think I'm sure you've seen it, and I saw it years ago when I was a little kid, and I don't think I've ever seen it since all the way through. And that is Willow. You've seen Willow, right?
Yeah. Um, I think there's a great Val Kilmer performance in that one.
Yeah. Speaking of which, because we're going to talk about him in Batman Forever, they're remaking, I think, a TV show, Willow.
I saw that. Yeah.
So that might be something we can talk about on a future episode of the SuperCaZt.
Yeah. I
I
thought that
like
was a
that movie.
yeah. I think it's a very underrated one.
Mhm.
It's one of those where really cool fantasy effects. I mean,
Right,
80s was not a good time for fantasy movies. I mean, Labyrinth bombed.
right,
Neverending Story was kind of a success, but not
yeah,
really. Wizard of Oz Return. I mean, the Return to Wizard of Oz was not very like
right.
welcomed and all that stuff. So yeah, Willow. I think another time it would have been a huge hit,
Hmm.
and I like it a lot.
Yeah. So
Um, any others? Let's bet. I guess we'll go back to Clue. I didn't know that was not a. I guess it wasn't a big success. It's one of those I've just watched as I got
really,
older.
yeah, it's one of those movies I did not grow up on or anything, but when I started dating my wife, she was a huge fan of it, so we watched it, and it's really good performances. I thought it was better than it was going to be. I was really surprised how good that film
Yeah,
was.
it's one of those great Tim Curry performances.
Yeah, I mean, what's not a great Tim Curry performance, really, though, because he could do no wrong, dude.
That's true. Yeah,
Rocky Horror.
yeah, that one's great. And if you haven't seen Legend in a while, that's a great one
Yeah,
too. Okay, I guess I'll get into my weird shows I've watched recently.
yeah.
And of all of these, I've only finished one of them,
Okay.
and that was because and I guess people that have actually listened to the show for a while know
Yeah,
I'm kind of cheap when it comes to streaming services. Like
you're right.
I don't like to have a lot of them just sitting there.
Sure.
If I'm not watching it, I'm gonna get rid of it.
Right. I
So,
understand.
so one of those is Netflix for me.
Hmm.
I got it back briefly just to watch watch Stranger Things,
Yeah.
and watched the new season. Loved it. And then the other show I watched was The Last Kingdom. So
Yeah.
I've been following Last Kingdom ever since season one. It's one of my favorite shows because it's very historical,
Uh huh.
and at the same time, it definitely does go into fiction.
Hmm.
But I just love the sort of how brutal it is. It's a Viking story.
Yeah.
I guess I'll sell the premise for you if you don't
Sure.
mind.
Yeah, man.
But
Sell it.
it's part of the great heathen invasion that happens when the Vikings invaded England,
Right.
and
Okay.
our main character Uhtred,
Hmm.
he was a little kid at the time,
Hmm.
and his dad gets killed, his castle gets pillaged,
Hmm.
and he ends up being raised by Vikings. So he's like part Anglo-Saxon, part Viking, and he ends up hooking up with Alfred the Great, and
Okay.
he helps out Alfred the Great fight the Vikings because he's like, I know them, they're my people, they just betray me and everything.
Right.
It's a really cool story because Uhtred has to like navigate this world of this one group doesn't really like him too much, but
Yeah.
neither does this other group.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of cool fighting and
Huh.
a lot of politics, sort of like Game of Thrones, and
Sounds like it.
it's a cool show. I mean, a lot of stuff happens in it. That's why I'm not going to really sell the whole plot, and it's really fun. So I watched the fourth season of that, and I really enjoyed it.
Let me ask you. You mentioned Stranger Things, because that's another phenomenal show that kind of took off. Um, Now, I'm not going to ask you to compare between Game of Thrones and Stranger Things, because that's not fair at all. Two different
No.
shows. But do you feel like both shows are worth the hype? Like, do you feel like Stranger Things is still going pretty strong? I mean, I know you've watched to the latest season of Stranger Things, so do you think it's still a pretty strong show up until this season? Because I've been a little weary after the last couple of seasons of the show, personally.
Yeah, I mean, I know everybody says the first season's the best, but
Right.
I've just enjoyed the ride. I like the
Okay.
characters a lot,
Okay.
and that's for me when I watch a TV show. That's the big thing. I like the.
Right.
I mean, I watch filler in anime just because I like the show.
Sure.
But so I liked Stranger Things, and especially the fourth season really got me into it. It
Mhm.
was one of those situations, and it's really only happened since the first season of Stranger Things,
Yeah.
where I could have just binged the whole thing at once if I
Right.
wanted to. Like I really had to talk myself out of it. I was like, okay, don't stay up to 4 or 5 in the morning. You got to go to bed now. It's like 2.
Yeah.
Just go to bed. You can watch the rest later.
Yeah.
But I was just that sucked in. I really
Yeah.
liked it a lot.
I thought the first season was really, really strong. I'll agree with that 100%. I think, kind of like Game of Thrones, I thought all the characters were original and good, and you really could predict where the story was going. I mean, was was you know was the kid gonna be okay? Was he gonna come back? Is he dead? I mean,
Hmm.
you really didn't know, and it wasn't like other shows where you could be like, oh, I know what's gonna happen here. This is gonna happen. So I was pleasantly surprised on the first season. I think got through midway of the second season, and for whatever reason, I just stopped watching. So I'm kind of trying to catch back up and see if it's worth it. But I trust your opinion, so who knows? Maybe we'll have a Stranger Things episode at some point and kind of talk about the show.
Yeah, I think it's worth it. I mean, especially if you can get past that whole silly stuff they do, it's kind of just like fan
Yeah,
service. I
yeah,
mean, you got to realize that's part of anything that's that
sure.
popular nowadays.
Oh yeah,
And I guess I'll talk about the 2 shows that didn't finish really briefly.
sure.
One is I know a lot of people love it, and that's Cobra Kai.
Mm,
So I was started the first season, like right when it first came out on
yep,
YouTube, and I didn't finish. I got
yeah,
like 4 or 5 episodes in. So while I had my Netflix subscription, I started watching it again,
yeah,
and it's one of those shows that I find it funny, but
yeah,
not funny enough to be like laughing a ton.
yeah,
I don't find the characters compelling enough to stay with it. And I know there's a lot of people that just love it. I just don't think it's for me. I think maybe it gets better after the first season, but
yeah,
I was just like, I I'm watching this. I like it.
yeah.
Just I don't want to dedicate my time to it. I guess some other things I'd rather be watching.
I hate to say this because it sounds like I'm repeating myself, but it's true. I watched the first season and loved the show. I thought it was great. I thought it was original. I thought
Mhm.
it, had just enough fan service for the movies. I thought, yeah, this is the way to go. The second season ruined it for me. I just hated the second season.
Really?
The characters. I mean, it just, I don't know. It just lost the magic. Maybe again, if I go back and see it, it might be okay. But I don't know. Just when I started and I started the second season right after the first one. I was on pace and everything, so it wasn't like I waited or anything. But I was just like, I don't like this as much.
Yeah.
Um, And I
I,
don't really even have an answer why. Like I can't even tell you
mhm.
exactly why. I just felt like it was maybe too much of a team drama. I don't know. I don't know, but it just lost its magic for whatever reason going from the first season to the second season. And that really just disappointed me because like I said, I really liked the first season. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm with you. I can't really put my finger on what I didn't like about it.
Okay,
It's
yeah.
And I'm not saying I didn't like it. I just like I
Right.
didn't like it enough to keep watching.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
exactly how I felt. And I'm glad you said it like that because that was me. I was like, I don't care. And I'd see things about it, and I see things about it now, and I'm like, maybe should I give it another chance? So who knows? Maybe I will, and we'll talk about it later on. Who knows?
Yeah, and the last one, so I love the anime Cowboy Bebop.
Uh huh.
And I was kind of excited even though every other live action anime I've ever watched kind of sucks. I was kind of excited about the Cowboy Bebop anime cuz
Yeah.
it seemed like they actually had the tone down. It
Mm-hmm.
seemed like they shot it really well.
Right.
And I watched the first few episodes and I was like, yeah, I like this.
Yeah.
But I stopped watching them just because I know it's already been canceled.
Mm.
And I know that I really feel bad for the showrunners
Yeah.
and the actors that were in it because it seems like the actors really liked what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like they wanted to put their all into it. John Cho, I don't know if you're familiar with him from
I've heard the name.
he's from Harold and Kumar, but also he was Sulu in the newest Star Trek
Yeah,
movies.
there you go. Okay.
But he was Spike Spiegel, and I thought they cast him very well. He seemed
Mm.
like he was pulling off the action very well, and I thought it was going to make him into a star, but
Yeah.
it ended up being canceled. So I stopped watching it just because, yet again, um,
Was it pretty faithful to the anime, or?
it is to an extent. I
Yeah.
was interested to see what they did because they basically take a character that was only in a few episodes because
Mm.
he's the main villain, and they
Yeah.
put him in every episode,
Mm.
just like you would get a little segment of him. So I
Yeah.
was interested to see what they did with him.
Yeah.
At the same time, it's just time is so valuable when you're in my stage of life where
Sure.
you've got so many things you want to watch, so many games you want to play, but
Yeah.
also you have life, you have a
Right.
family. So
Yeah.
I'm just like, I have to make choices.
Right.
So I just can't watch all the stuff I used to watch back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. There's so many things to choose from, and I'm with you though on the streaming thing. I'm starting to understand what it is to be picky because there's some things you can spin on and you can watch for a little bit and you're like, it doesn't really do it for me after a while. Kind of like the Cobra Kai or whatever. So um, I'm not quite as busy as you, but I can understand on the choices thing, and I've gotten better about like not wasting time watching something that I don't like because you can get caught up in stuff you don't like, and you're like, man, I just wasted an hour watching that crap. So
Yeah. That being said, there are some shows that take a long time to get going. Like
yeah,
first first 2 seasons or so, you have to get into it.
hmm
Um, like one of my favorite shows of all time, One Piece.
yeah,
It really doesn't get good until like 40 episodes in. And then you get just like, if you get to that point, you're like, I'm a lifer. I will watch this to episode 1000, which they're currently on.
wow,
So it's just one of those weird things. So
yeah,
I'm glad I got into One Piece when I did, because if I started now, I would just never finish it.
because you wouldn't have the time, man.
No.
There you go. So well, hey, this has been fun. Talking about some of the stuff we've been watching. That's what we kind of wanted to do. This is very, just kick back, chilling, because we're both off work tomorrow. So, had a fun time, guys, and hope you guys join us for the next one because we will do this, periodically and say hi to you guys on a live basis. But please, please, sign up on our YouTube channel and on our socials. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook, and as Steve said, we're coming out with a lot of good stuff in September, and then of course October is probably going to be a lot of fun. So a lot of big things happening here for us on the SuperCaZt.
Yeah. So thanks for joining us. We'll catch you guys next time live or just dropping on the video, whatever.
Yep.
You guys have a good Labor Day weekend.
See you guys.